So they were intimate in the home on the 23rd, and then
This was at her place, right?
her place in Draper. Dakota wanted to talk about the relationship, knowing the volatility and where these often go, with folks getting very animated, yelling at each other. Taylor acquiesced on the condition that they go outside. So they went outside. Dakota drove away against her wishes with her in the car, and then assaulted her. And this 3 pictures,
Away from the house with the child alone inside the house?
Correct.
At 2 years old?
Yes. So
how far away?
Well, as he tells it, he kind of did a loop, so he stayed in the vicinity,
okay,
but drove away against her wishes. The reason these pictures are important is because what happened, right? You've got 2 different narratives here that are at odds. We're in the truck on the 23rd, and they're both pointing their fingers at each other as far as, hey, they assaulted me. These pictures were extremely relevant and persuasive to law enforcement because Dakota's narrative is she went crazy and I had to kind of fight her off of me. And in that scenario, in that sequence, yeah, I did, push her head against the dashboard. He admits that in writing to police, but it's within that context of it's defensive. But the prosecutor and...
Have we shifted from response to his petition to initial argument on hers?
Yes.
All right. Okay.
If that's okay.
That's fine.
Okay. All right. And it's a bit of both. I mean, if both sides are claiming assault as it relates to February 23rd, there's going to be some bleeding over. So.
Okay. All right.
Okay. So with that clarification, Your Honor, again, investigators and prosecutors looked at this sequence of pictures provided by Taylor, and they contradict what Dakota said about what happened on the 23rd. These are not defensive bruises that Dakota inflicted on her. These are bruises that depict her left shoulder. So again, she's sitting in the passenger seat. These depict him forcefully grabbing her shoulder and sending her right into the dashboard. There's also a picture of bruising on her arm, which occurred during the same incident when he struck her. Now again, we've switched gears a bit and kind of drifting into my client's request for a protective order. As it relates to Dakota's conduct, my client has seen patterns of abuse and isolation, harassment over the years, and she would like to highlight just a couple of things that kind of speak to his inclinations, speak to what his desires are for her, his possessive nature. We have submitted as our exhibits B and K a very small glimpse into his obsession over Taylor, his inability to move on and leave her alone. Perhaps the strangest exhibit of the hearing will be our Exhibit C. It's a 3-page sequence of pictures that depict a tattoo that Dakota received on the inside of his lip, his lower lip, of Taylor's initials. This was done without her knowledge, without her permission, and during an extremely difficult time in their relationship. It was unwelcome. She told him that. As soon as she found out about the tattoo, she told him that, labeled it creepy, and he just doubled down on it and denied that there would be anything objectionable about it. Dakota does attempt to muddy the waters. In his statement filed this week, he does attempt to muddy the waters on this issue. He attaches a text message in which they claim, Taylor implies that she liked the tattoo, finding it quote-unquote hot that he had the tattoo. That is not a fair reading of the text message. It's clear that she's mocking him for having the tattoo. She's essentially telling him, I'll be thinking of your silly tattoo while I'm with other guys. It wasn't nice that she said that, but that is the context, and that is the correct interpretation of what she was attempting to convey, not meant as a dig at him. It was meant as a dig at him, not a genuine expression. Another objection my client has regarding Dakota's conduct over the years that, again, shows his infatuation with her, inability to let go, his monitoring of her, is shown in our Exhibit K. This is at the very end of our exhibit packet, Your Honor. Very briefly, this demonstrates that there are two instances. There were two instances in which Dakota stole Taylor's phone. Specifically, if you read these, specifically...
This is him talking in this text bubble, in these text bubbles.
Yes. And so, for example, if you go, so Exhibit K, pages 8 and 9, if you go to the second to last page in this exhibit, that is page 8. What's being shown here is the first instance, did you steal my phone? So weird, and she confronts him about it, and he downplays it. The second instance is depicted on the final page here. You stole my phone again? He says, yep, wanted to read all the messages of you and Braden. She says, dude, you're a creep and it's illegal to be stealing from me. And his dismissive response was, oh, call the cops. So he didn't understand that he had crossed a boundary, that this was invasive, that it was, at a minimum, improper for him to be observing and intruding on these communications that he imagined she was having. Finally, Your Honor, I do want to, as it relates to his abusive conduct, I do want to touch on something that is a little unusual about this case. There are a few aspects to it that are a bit unusual, but this is one that my client and I find, I think, relevant, and that is a very public leak of the 2023 Barstool incident to media outlets, one specific media outlet, TMZ, on the same day that Dakota filed his amended request
You're
for a
talking
protective
about
order.
the affidavit from Draper.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, she touches on that. Yes. So you're correct that a declaration from Jesse Draper was filed yesterday afternoon.
Okay.
And so I'll get to that in just a moment. But to provide a little bit of context, last year, my client, she was announced as ABC's Bachelorette. Filming took place in the fall. The season was supposed to have debuted on March 22nd. However, on March 19th, the same day he filed his amended request for a protective order, a news outlet published the video of this incident. Before this release, it had not been out in the public. So this was released 3 days before the big debut and coincided, again, with other actions he was taking with the protective order, as well as coordination, additional reports to law enforcement. I understand he denies having done this, but a lot of information lends itself to Dakota leaking this, or at least at the very minimum, having his fingerprints all over this. In addition to the timing, which is extremely coincidental, the declaration of Jesse Draper, which you alluded to, Your Honor, indicates that in the days leading up to the March leak, Ms. Draper entered the basement of her home, that's Ms. Draper's home, to find Dakota speaking with Ms. Draper's husband, Jordan, as well as Dakota's roommate, Crew. And what they were talking about, she noticed that he was very animated, that Dakota was very animated. He was venting his frustrations with cops not doing anything, and told her he was going to take matters into his own hands to embarrass Taylor. He specifically told Ms. Draper that he planned on leaking embarrassing videos of Taylor to the press, starting with the Barstool video. He specifically named TMZ as the outlet, and a few days later, that exact video was released by TMZ. My point in bringing this up, Your Honor, is that it contradicts how he is attempting to portray himself today as someone who is really his
Hey everybody, if you're still listening, thanks for following along. I am going to try to post more videos. I am trying to monetize this page, so if you have any suggestions, I would appreciate it. If you could read my story in my link tree. I am trying to get some help with some health issues, but it's a long story. I posted about it. I posted why I don't show my face and all that stuff. So if you've been with me since day one, thank you for your support, and I hope you guys are doing great. Have a great day.